Hello, good evening. This is the 7 o'clock news hour. Now, I will go to today's top story, the Colorado River Basin. This majestic beast of a river has two origins. The first starts in northern Colorado, where the snowmelt from the Rockies makes its way down to the intersection with Utah and the Green River, which originates in Wyoming. For millions of years, it has fed the ecosystem stretching along its banks through 7 stunning states in the Midwest, providing nutrients to an otherwise barren landscape. Recently, the basin has found itself under the scrutiny of the world's scientist communities. I'm here with 2 scientists who have been studying the basin for decades. Dr. Swan from the Jesse Institute of Basin Studies and Professor Benedict Flumberback, a professor at the Harvard Study College. Welcome and bienvenue. So, doctors, what are the issues surrounding the Colorado River Basin?
I'm in fact not a doctor, I'm a professor. But in recent years, a series of droughts, overuse, and urban development have caused the river to be increasingly depleted, as more water is flowing out than flowing in. Many major U.S. cities in the Southwest, native tribes, as well as many types of organisms, rely on the constant flow from the river to survive in an otherwise pretty dry area.
Do agree.
This has happened to such an extent that not only have parts of the river become muddy due to lack of water, but also it no longer even reaches the Gulf of Mexico.
So, what has the U.S. attempted to address these issues? And have these strategies worked?
Well, yeah. Go ahead, old chap. Don't worry.
Well, thank you very much, old sport. Thank you very much. Well, the U.S. has attempted to address these issues in two main ways. First, the U.S. has started to support municipal attempts to increase water conservation. Also, they are trying to increase the reuse of water in industrial settings and whatnot. Second, the basin has been split into 2 separate entities, the upper and the lower, each of which has its own specific water conservation goal. The first is the upper, and they are aiming to keep the water level of Lake Powell above 3,525 feet, around 1,300 meters. The lower of the two, the lower basin, has accumulated an assortment of states which have all agreed to use less water in order to maintain the proper water level of Lake Mead. If both the upper and the lower basin achieve these goals through water conservation, the ecosystem and the lives of the humans and the organisms will be safe.
Dr. Swan, could you describe any recent updates, possibly in the last 2 years?
Well, yes, of course. Recently, actually, just earlier this month in April, Donald Trump signed the Colorado River Drought Plan, which is basically to cut back the use of water in the Midwest, because, as we know, the river supplies water to roughly 40 million people over there. And by doing this, they plan to maintain the certain water level, as my colleague said earlier, in Lake Mead and Powell, which are the 2 key lakes, which would allow us to have a long-term prevention plan in case a bad drought should hit, making sure that they have enough water until they can go to the next steps. So the second plan, also this month, is the Colorado River Basin Drought Contingency Plan, which was a set of legislation implemented which allows us to help support grow agriculture and protect the water supply that, as I mentioned earlier, supplies 40 million people throughout the Midwest. This plan also requested input from the governors and designated representatives from Colorado, and they recommended potential affirmative action to be taken.
That was Professor Flumberback and Dr. Swan with us on 7 News this evening. Thank you and good night.